her. There she is. She's my daughter. Yes, right. Right. We are going to continue with our slideshow. Right. I'm waiting for it to respond. Right, yes. Okay. Our message for today is called the generational curse. If we remember last week, we talked a bit about generational curse, and I got the impression that I should talk more about generational curse. Why do I have to talk more about this thing called generational curse? It is because it has become increasingly common for Christians to suppose that they are victims of generational curses. This was said by one man called Hanegraaff, which is a true thing, that most Christians, I don't think it doesn't matter whether you are of African background or European background. Everyone believes that there is a curse, and the curse, for sure, they are there. But what I would like us to understand is, do we have that living amongst us as Christians? I would like the young people, there are mostly young people at the back there, I would like you to listen and listen very carefully in the youth hall as we go through this. Because when we talk of generational curses, it is something which is believed to be passed from parents to the children and from children to their children's children and the like. So do we have this thing, generational curses? Are generational curses real? Is it something which is real? And another question that we may have is, can my life be plagued by generational sins, generational hexes, or generational curses? It's something that we have to ask. I mean, if ever there's something disagreeable in your life, with your life, that you ask yourself. There are some people who walk around with a burden, thinking that there's nothing that I can do. It is just a generational curse which is upon me. There's nothing that I can do about it. Is it there? Is there anything that we can do about it? Is there anything is there any hope as far as generational curses are concerned? Have you ever heard of statements like, don't marry in that family, they are cursed with laziness. Don't marry in that family, they're the curse of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've heard of these things. Or they are witches, or there's something like this about them. Never dare marry from the family. Have you ever heard you have a curse of poverty? Why is it that I'm not getting rich? One of my relatives was told by their husband that we are not getting rich because you have a curse. It's you who's making us not to get rich. Is there anything like that? Is there anything like, my family is cursed with illness of some sort? That's why from one generation to the other, we have ill people with this thing. Is there anything like that, that we are sick, we are ill because of the generational curse which is upon our families, which is upon my family, which is upon your family? Is there anything like that? And if there is, how can we free ourselves of these curses? I'll make it clear. Something called a curse is there. But is there a curse from one generation to the other? That the plight that you have in your life, or that I have in my life, is a plight that I will ascribe to. It has come from my father or from my parents. It's with me. Unfortunately, it will go to my children, and it will go to their children. Curses are there. But how do we deal with them? How do we handle them? I will address two types of curses, physical and spiritual. Physical and spiritual. First, I want us to be aware what the Bible says. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. It says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also will reject you from being priest for me." Are we cursed because maybe we reject knowledge? Do we survive under the state of a curse because we reject knowledge? Or is there any knowledge that we should know about curses so that we will be free of them? The Bible says that my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. And I said there are two kinds that I would like to look at, physical and spiritual curses. And as far as the physical curse is concerned, it is usually the diseases that come upon people. And what about them? We read from one of the books, which is Lifestyle Medicine. It says that most modern diseases are caused by lifestyle. Lifestyle changes must be part of the cure. So, could it be the solution of the curse? I will start on the physical curse because that is where I want to begin. I will first go on a testimony. As far as the curses are concerned, physical curses, we find that usually people suffer from disease because my parents have them. If they gave it to me, and then I'll give it to my children. It is a curse. There's nothing that we can do about it. This testimony is coming from one of our own. You'll recognize when they talk, and I'm going to play the testimony.
Greetings to everyone. I've been asked to talk about my experience with high blood pressure, a condition which I have and I believe runs in my family. I became aware of it through a health expo at church. Greetings to everyone. I've been asked to talk about my experience with high blood pressure, a condition.
Right. As the technical guys look into that, and I will continue. I will continue as they look into it. We are going to come back to this video. Unfortunately, the next one again will need to play a video, but I'll come back to them. The thing that I want us to be aware of, or you can play this video from the back, JD, this one, yes, just for the videos only, and then we switch over after the video. Yeah.
Greetings to everyone. I've been asked to talk about my experience with high blood pressure, a condition which I have and I believe runs in my family. I became aware of it through a health expo at church a few years back. I remember the lower number being above 90. And as many of you might be aware, High blood pressure is usually anything above 140 over 90.
We are going to wait a little bit. Unfortunately, the next slide is also dependent on the sound. If there isn't, we can always, I will, if there's no sound, I'm going to paraphrase whatever the video was going to say.
Greetings to everyone. I've been asked to talk about my experience with high blood pressure, a condition. Greetings to everyone. I've been asked to talk about my experience with high blood pressure, a condition which I have and I believe runs in my family. I became aware of it through a health expo at church a few years back. I remember the lower number being above 90. And as many of you might be aware, high blood pressure is usually anything above 140 over 90. The condition runs in my family because my father had it, and I know that because he had a minor stroke around the time of his passing. My elder brother also is on medication. Now, I've had ups and downs with the condition. At one point, I went for almost a month on a green diet, essentially. I was eating steamed vegetables, mostly spinach, mushroom, the green peppers, the big ones, and tomatoes, of course. Was also exercising regularly, running about 2 miles every day. During that time, my readings became normal, even as low as 128, or they were in the mid to upper 120s of 70 to 80. I was doing so well that I even came off medication by myself until I had a very stressful event in my life when someone had rang me with a message or information that they believed my child had been kidnapped. I was so stressed that I lost all control of my circumstances, and I've struggled since then to bring my readings within normal. But I haven't given up. I'm working on it. Unfortunately, since that time, I've also gained a little bit of weight. I need to lose at least 5 kilos. And I believe that should normalize my readings. And I pray that God may sustain me in this endeavor. I believe also that for myself, one of the mistakes that I made was to come off the medication quickly, at least without the advice of the experts. I know that some people may dislike medicines, but for me, especially in this condition, in knowing the dangers, I will continue to take until I'm 100% sure that I can manage it properly without any medicines. It's kind of scary, the risks associated with high blood pressure, from strokes, heart attacks, kidney issues, even dementia, diabetes. So there's every reason to not give up. And the benefits also of losing weight and the general well-being that one feels and experiences is worth the effort. I pray that I will continue this fight and not give up, and hopefully the next time I'll be able to give a testimony that yes, I've overcome. It is my prayer, my wish to be a vegetarian, or at least almost a vegetarian. I would like, by God's help, to try and stick to the New Start formula. Not just the physical aspects of it, but also to trust God for the victory. Thank you.
Okay, stay there, JP. Don't change, don't switch over yet. So here is a brother who is coming from a family with high blood pressure. I mean, he's a good friend of mine, and I know a little bit more into his life as much as he does into mine. So his father died by the time of what he may be, his age now, almost around that time, because of high blood pressure. And his brother has high blood pressure. He has high blood pressure. And thank God he's a Christian. And this video was recorded last year, by the way, early last year. And when he talked about planning on becoming a vegetarian, as far as I know, he's vegetarian now. I mean, he's vegan. And I didn't talk to him about how he's doing in the side of, on the side of his blood pressure at the moment. But I got his consent to play this today to you at church. But the thing is, what I want to say is, could one say that it is a curse that my parents had this disease, I have the disease, I'm likely to give it to my children? It's likely that the children may have it. And so is there any way that they can break that? That's the thing. That's the thing that we may have to know. And the next thing, I'm not going to play the next full video, but I'm going to, this is going to be a sermon with a change. You know some of the sermons that I do, that they have a bit of science in them, so that we may get and understand some of the things and appreciate them. There's a bit of science in the next video that I'm going to play, and I'm bringing this so that we may appreciate the next things that I'm going to say. If you can go to the next slide, please, JP. And this video will show that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Let us watch. This is real. Some of it is animated and some of it is real.
These are tiny molecular machines, and they are doing this inside your body right now. To understand why, we have to zoom out. Every day in an adult human body, 50 to 70 billion of your cells die. Either they're stressed or damaged or just old. But this is normal. In fact, it's called programmed cell death. But to make up for all these lost cells, right now, billions of your cells are dividing, essentially creating new cells. And that process of cell division, also called mitosis, well, it requires an army of tiny molecular machines. So let's take a closer look. DNA is a good place to start, the double helix molecule we always talk about. This is a scientifically accurate depiction of DNA created by Drew Barry at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research. If you unwind the two strands, you can see that each has a sugar phosphate backbone connected to the sequence of nucleic acid base pairs, known by the letters A, T, G, and C. Now the strands run in opposite directions, which is important when you go to copy DNA. Copying DNA is one of the first steps in cell division. Here, the two strands of DNA are being unwound and separated by the tiny blue molecular machine called helicase. Helicase literally spins as fast as a jet engine. The strand of DNA on the right has its complementary strand assembled continuously, but the other strand is more complicated because it runs in the opposite direction. So it must be looped out with its complementary strand assembled in reverse, section by section. At the end of this process, you have two identical DNA molecules, each one a few centimeters long, but just a couple nanometers wide. So to prevent the DNA from becoming a tangled mess, it is wrapped around proteins called histones, forming a nucleosome. These nucleosomes are bundled together into a fiber known as chromatin, which is further looped and coiled to form a chromosome, one of the largest molecular structures in your body. You can actually see chromosomes under a microscope in dividing cells. Only then do they take on their characteristic shape. Otherwise, the DNA is more strewn inside the nucleus. The process of dividing a cell takes around an hour in mammals, so this footage is from a time lapse. You can see how the chromosomes line up on the equator of the cell. Now, when everything is right, they are pulled apart into the two new daughter cells, each one containing an identical copy of DNA. Now, as simple as this looks, the process is incredibly complicated and requires even more fascinating molecular machines to accomplish it. So let's look at a single chromosome. One chromosome consists of two sausage-shaped chromatids containing the identical copies of DNA made earlier. Each chromatid is attached to microtubule fibers, which guide and help align them in the correct position. The microtubules are connected to the chromatid at the kinetochore, here colored red. The kinetochore consists of hundreds of different proteins working together to achieve multiple objectives. In fact, it's one of the most sophisticated molecular mechanisms inside your body.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I'll stop it here. What I wanted us to appreciate is how much fearfully, and as well as you can switch over to me if you don't mind, JB. Yeah, how much fearfully and wonderfully we are made. Psalms 139 verse 14 says, "I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." That's what the psalmists say in Psalms 139 verse 14. So we have seen that is inside of a cell, right deeper into the cell. So many, as we go on with the video, the gentleman says that there are so many things that we do not understand. There are so many things, even though science has tried to get into the lowest levels of human understanding, but there's so much that it does not understand, just to show how much we are fearfully and wonderfully made human or creatures, the creator. And then, why am I doing this? Why am I exposing us into these difficult scientific lessons? It's because I want us to understand this thing of generational curse, whether there is anything in the generational curse or not, as far as the physical aspect is concerned. I'm going to take you through another, a small further. This one will be quicker. Biology foundation. There's something called an organism. You are an organism. Within me as an organism, there are systems. There's digestive system, there's circulatory system, and many other systems within me. And then within there are organs. Within the digestive system, there's an organ called the stomach and also an esophagus where the food passes. And in the circulatory system, there's a heart and the blood vessels and the like. And then there are tissues within those organs. And then within the tissues, there are cells. And that which the previous video was describing are cells, which are inside the tissues. This is me, this is you as a human being, fearfully and wonderfully made by the great creator of the heavens and earth. Not that I evolved or you evolved from something. No, fearfully and wonderfully made. So what is it about cells cells form tissues, organs, systems, and organisms? What is it about them? Each human being has cells which are more than or around 37 trillion, if you can count that. 37 trillion, and every cell in your body has the same DNA. The person who gave us our first prayer, I said, thank God. She mentioned that God knows us, the DNA, each one of us, which is different from one person to the other. So there's something called DNA, and within this DNA is the hereditary material in humans and almost every organism. And have you ever wondered about DNA testing? They say that our technology now has grown, that this person who committed this crime so many years ago, we can now tell that through DNA testing, it was so and so, and we have confirmed it. Whether they get a piece of hair or a small a sample of blood or small sample of skin, DNA is the same across all these things. Your DNA is the same across all these things. And the DNA molecule is made up of two strands, as it has been said already, and the information in the DNA is stored in the code which has already been said. And then there are genes, those 4 letters, is it 4 letters? And what about those genes? Those genes, first let us, I'm not trying to teach you science. Please follow me and don't say that we did not come for a science lesson. I want us to understand. The Bible says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. I want us to understand and appreciate this. First, have you ever heard of something called a genome? A genome is a fancy word which is all about your DNA, and your genome is the operating manual. If you have your, any gadget, your phone has a manual which tells you about how to operate it. So your genome contains all the instructions that help you develop from a single cell. When the 2 cells fuse into 1 cell, and then at the end of the day, you are who you are. Some are tall, some are short like myself, some are big, some are small, and some are white, some are black. All those things, they are determined by your genes and the genomes. And how does my genome work? It works like an instruction manual whereby the letters of your genome combine in different ways. It's like in the English language, there are 26 letters of the alphabet, but from those 26 letters, we come up with so many words. I don't know how many they are, by different combinations of those letters. Same with your genome. Different combinations, they determine what things need to be made. And then enters the genes. And the genes, a gene is a segment of the DNA that provides the cell with instructions for making a specific protein. So genes will tell that this is the protein that is supposed to be made, this is the protein that is supposed to be made, or it's a hair, or it's a nail, or it's the tongue, or it's the eye. That comes from the genes. And they are in roughly the same order and more than 99.9% of your DNA sequence is identical of any other human being. If I go to Mongolia now, 99.9% of my DNA sequence will be the same as the Mongolian. I go to Zambia, 99% will be the same. I go to America, to the furthest land that you can think of, our DNA, 99.9% is almost similar. We are all human. We are all the same. And still, we are different. On average, a human gene will have 1 to 3 letters that differ from person to person. These differences are enough to change the shape and function of a protein, which is making me short and other people tall. Those are the differences which come in. And when it's made or where it's made, they affect the color of your eyes, the hair, skin. More importantly, variations in your genome also influence your risk of developing diseases. Those variations, they influence the risk of developing disease. Let us keep this in our mind. Those variations, the risk of developing the diseases and your responses to medications. So, parents, the role of parents in all this. The role of parents comes in father and mother pass instructions necessary for you to grow throughout your life. There is father, there is mother. The two cells meet, and when they meet, half from father, half from mother, it will determine height, it will determine your eye color, it will determine the diseases that you are likely to have. Right? And then the next thing is half of your genome comes from your biological parents, but your biological parents' genes influence your traits like height, eye color, and diseases, that which I've already said. But does my genome determine everything about me? I've inherited my parents. For example, I come from parents with high blood pressure, and my line of both sides, they have prostate cancer, and they a problem with acid reflux, and all those things. I inherit from them those things. But the thing now which comes up is, does my genome determine everything about me? Not entirely. Genomes are complicated, and while a small number of your traits are mainly controlled by one gene, most are influenced by multiple genes. On top of that, lifestyle and environmental factors play a critical role in your development and health. The day-to-day, long-term choices you make, such as what you eat, if you smoke, how active you are, and if you get enough sleep, all affect your health. They all affect your health. What you eat, whether you smoke, whether you exercise, and whatever things. You may have inherited good genes from your parents, but you may skew them up. You may have inherited bad genes which are predisposed towards, but you may pull them back to be good for you, and to come up with things that are good for you. And DNA is not your destiny. The way you live influences how your genome works. This is called epigenetics. I'm not going to talk a lot about this because in the interest of time, all that I'm going to say is just imagine this epigenetics being a movie. Those who know movies, a movie has a director and has actors, and take yourselves as actors within a movie. And those actors have, when they do a movie, there is a script that they are given, and within that script, the director tells the actors how they should go. And DNA is the script, which is given to you. And your cells are the actors. And being the actors are supposed to follow the script, but the director determines which letters or which part of the script should be cut off or should be enhanced. But the script is coming there. It's already there. If you are coming from parents with high blood pressure, it's already there in the script. But then the director will determine, do I want this part of the movie to be emphasized more or not? Do I want this to be emphasized less? That's the director of the movie. And do I want to cut this off? That is what is called epigenetics. That the way that you live, those things that we talked about, that your choices, such as what you eat, your environment, whether you smoke, and whether you get enough sleep, all those are part of what causes the epigenetics, which is your director, which directs your cells. And when it directs your cells, at the end of the day, when you exercise, when you eat well, even though you have come up, even though you are born with those cells, the director will suppress those negatives not to be expressed in you. We heard our brother Johnson. He said that he ate well, he started exercising, and he got normal, and he ended up putting away all the medications. That is epigenetics. That is the director. And even the stresses of life and the like, they all determine if you will be healthy or not. Do I have a generational curse in my life that I should be ill or not? And epigenetics will be the director. The script can be the same, but the director can choose to eliminate or tweak or certain scenes or dialogue, altering the movie for better or for worse. So whatever you do about your body, do you exercise? Do you eat well? Do you get good sleep? Do you smoke? All those, they determine if you will express those things which you inherited from your parents or not. You can suppress them by exercising, by doing all those things. They can be suppressed, and the generational curse will not be manifested in you as a human being. There was a video which I was going to play. I'm not going to play it in the interest of time. Remember, genes are specific sequences of bases that provide instructions on how to make important protein, complex molecules. This video talks about, this video which I was going to play, it talks about, I'm not going to play it, it talks about identical twins. The twins are born identical. Identical twins come from the same cell fusion, which break into two. They're supposed to be identical, they have same genes, but as they grow up, you find that maybe the other one will be obese, the other one will be slim, and the other one might have a heart disease, the other one might not, because of the different lifestyles that they lived. So at the end of the day, one may be healthier than the other, but yet they are identical. They are meant to be similar, they are meant to be same. And then the one who may be relaxed will end up hating the one who is doing well, thinking that they have a curse upon themselves. Maybe my parents cursed me, that's why I'm what I am. They talk negatively about me and to me. Yes, words have a big impact on children, but it may not be what your parents did, but look into yourself. And the take-home lessons which are important is diet is important in influencing how we exercise. Sleep deprivation alters gene expression. And obesity alters gene expression. And the positive good ones which work well with your body are the polyphenols, the B vitamins, which we find them in grains mostly, and as well as in green vegetables for the polyphenols. And exercise, we have talked about stress reduction. We heard our brother Johnson say that when he heard that his child was kidnapped, he had stress and everything came up, and he lost control of his circumstances. And the maternal or paternal diet, if you are pregnant, your diet, you have to be very careful about whether you will give your child those things which, whether they will be expressed a lot in them. And the negative influences are sugar. It is more dangerous to eat sugar. Even the spiritual prophecy says that sugar is more dangerous than meat eating. I'm not saying that go and eat meat or what, but be careful about everything is sugar. Sugar is very, very, very dangerous. Take it from me. Go and read more about it. sugar is very dangerous. We need it, but we need it in moderation and in wholesome way, not refined sugars, which we get from the fast foods and McDonald's and all these other things. We have to be careful. And then alcohol, saturated fats, they are very dangerous as well, processed foods. And the next thing is, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works. So, does it mean, what is it about this generational curse that I have diseases? The thing is, look into yourself. Yes, you may have inherited the genes that have those traits which your parents had, but your genes are not your destiny. Your destiny is how you treat yourself. How my people die because of lack of knowledge. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6. If we know, we will divert some of the things which happen to us. We trust so much in doctors. I'm not nullifying the job of doctors, but the thing is, when I feel something achy, doctor, prescription. This achy, doctor, prescription. Doctors are taught in medicine, and all that they will do, they'll just give you prescription. And lifestyle, lucky will you be if you go to your doctor and they prescribe lifestyle, change of lifestyle. That doctor will be a very good doctor in some instances. Of course, there are some things which are very important, like what my brother said. High blood pressure, I know that there's something, but there are some, I'm not going to go deeper into that, but there are some things, if you have high blood pressure, given medication by your doctors, if you don't, you might die of a stroke until you have control. Things like high blood pressure, diabetes, and the like, if you don't control them, you might die. Control as you change your lifestyle. And as you change your lifestyle, be monitored by your doctor. And as the doctor monitors you, you'll find that the dosage of what they'll have prescribed will be going less and less as your lifestyle goes well and well. And at the end of the day, you'll discard that. So we have, it is not a generational curse. Yes, we are living in a flawed world. Things are not well, and we have problems with sin and all this, but we are not, our genes are not our destiny. What about the spiritual curse? What about the spiritual curse in the remaining time? The spiritual curse, I'll go into this. As far as the spiritual curse is concerned, we have seen that, right, where are my notes here? Right, we have seen that we inherit the traits that we have, and the preferences from our parents aren't always positive influences. I mean, the traits that we receive from our parents are not always positive. When we acquire a sinful habit, actually, we can even acquire sinful habits from our parents. Last week when we read, if our parents have dispositions to certain things, it might be because of genetics, and you find that you have a tendency of being of short temper, hot-tempered person. It may be within your genes, unfortunately, but some are developed traits, some are inherited traits. But when you come to the Lord, all those have to die. When the grace of the Lord grows in you. So when we inherit those traits, your genes are not your destiny. You may be unfortunate that you have inherited traits of diseases, of temper, that your work may be more than another person who has inherited very cool and nice going person, that when you talk to them about God, they say that, I don't do anything wrong. And then you look at them, they don't do anything wrong, but they haven't acknowledged God in their lives. We are saved by acknowledging Jesus, that He is our Savior. All our good works are like filthy rags. You may be a cool and easy-going person, and then you think that your works are going to save you. Not before God. We are all equal. Whether you are born with the genes which are disagreeable, with hot temper, with impatience, with all those things, and another person is born with cool and easygoing genes, we are all equal when it comes before the throne. We are all saved by grace through faith, and no works can save us. And all our good works are like filthy rags. So, whatever you are born with, when you come to God, your genes will not be your destiny. But what about the spiritual generational curse? There's a trend in the church today to try to blame every sin and problem on some sort of generational curse. Some believe that they are held captive by a generational curse through no fault of their own, destined to make the mistakes they make. My father did this, and my grandfather did this as well. So I have no choice. I am doing it as well. I know of some of the families, and one of my relatives, the father had so many children, and he was, if we use, I don't know whether it's a modern day word, I don't hear it now. They call it a Casanova. Moving from one place to the other. He was, and then one of his sons started doing that as well. Is it because I received this from my father, I can't help myself? No, that's not the case. It's not because you may have received those weaknesses from your father, but they are not supposed to be your destiny. It's the concept of a generational curse, a curse biblical anyway. It all started in the Garden of Eden. When it comes to, we are now talking about spiritual. We have passed the physical one. It's now on the spiritual. It all started in the Garden of Eden when the woman ate that fruit, and when she ate the fruit, gave some to the man, and the man ate, and they fell, and then they started to pass from one generation to the other. As we read in the Bible that when they fell, the part that I'm interested in is the one which is highlighted, that even though every inclination of human heart is evil from childhood, that we inherited from our parents, we are naturally inclined to do evil, but that is not our destiny. Even Paul in Romans chapter 7 cries and says, I know the good that I ought to do, but I find myself doing that which is not right. He says that what an evil, the evil which I find myself doing that which is not right, it is no longer me, but the evil living in me. So is there any a curse about that? I will fast forward, and in the interest of time, you find that, there are some families where they have spiritual issues. And you find that, children are not getting married. They believe that they are. One thing that I'd like to say, it may be true that you may be under a curse. The devil has power. That power was not taken from him. It may be true that someone can cast a spell upon you. This is not a make-do thing. This is not a fictional thing. It is a living reality. But if, say, my parents had a spell cast upon them, do I have to have that spell as well? Bear with me. Time is so jealous. I'm going to give a small testimony. 2014, my family and I went back home to Zimbabwe. We were going to see relatives. It was after a few years without seeing them. And it was a wonderful reunion with the relatives. And one of the things that we were going to do was to put, not in a traditional and spiritual way, was to prepare and put a tombstone on my dad's grave. Whether it's good or not, all that I know is that when Jesus died, the ladies went to prepare the grave, and the following day when they went to put flowers on the grave, that's when they found the angel seated in front of that grave. So it is arguable. But and then, long story short, we came back. And short time after we came back, I received a message from one of the close relatives of mine. And the message says, Mpumelelo. Mpumelelo is my name. Mpumelelo, what did you come to do at home? what was your purpose of visit to Zimbabwe? And then he says, I know that there is a curse that you and your family have cast upon our family. That is why our family is not being successful in life. And for sure, their family is not successful. None of them is properly married. They marry and then things break apart, and for sure. And now they attribute that to us, that you came to tie a knot. Those who can understand my language, you came to tie a knot against us, that we continue being unsuccessful. That's why we are like that. This was one of the things which I could not understand. Unfortunately, the whole community of our family knew about it because it was something. And they even, his father went home, and they called the whole community and called my mother and sat her down and said, where is that little red cloth that my auntie gave to your husband, who is my father? Where is the little red cloth? It is because of that cloth that your family is successful and ours is not. And it was, long story short, that family, I know with my ears, because they are very close relatives, I loved them when I was young. I still love them. And when I was young, I used to visit the children because we were same age, we play everywhere. But they decided to move away from Seventh-day Adventists, and they went to a spiritualist church, which back home we call a Zion. The Zion, the spiritualist churches, which prophesy and all those things, they went there. It's not something that I'm making up. One of the days when I was there, when I was younger, they prophesied me. That's many years ago, more than 30 years ago. They prophesied me and my younger sister, who comes immediately after me. They said, one of you is going to get mad. You lose your senses. That's what they say to us. And I was so much into the thing that everyone, when they're going there, they'll have a beautiful and a specific uniform, that when they are going there to dance and do everything, I wanted that as well, because I'll be going in my normal clothes and I'll be looking like a lost sheep amongst them. And then they prophesied that I was supposed to be given a certain kind of that as well, clothing. And then I took that to my mother. My mother is a no-nonsense person, and she said, rubbish. I don't want to hear anything about that. Stop it and stop it now. My mother saved me, and I thank God for that. And stopped it. And that spiritualist church, I'm talking about generational curse here, spiritual generational curse. And that spiritualistic church told them that you are being bewitched by your... I heard it with my ears. They say that when he was cycling to work, each time he cycles to work, there will be, they call it ticology, a small thing, a small human who will be riding behind his bicycle when he cycles to church. And they say that it will be there, and not to church, but to work. And when he gets to work, he used to be a security guard. When he was seated in his office, that small ticology will be sitting as well out there. And to send that away, they will use salt, spreading salt and everything like that. And it got in and in. And my cousin, who is 2 years older than me, got so much into that it even almost lost his brains. That when he did his GCSEs, he only managed to come out with 3: maths, English, and science, and everything else he could not get. And up to this day, none of them are doing well. Those churches, they told them to move away from their family, like Abraham, that way, but they were under a different... So why am I saying this? I'm saying this that we have to be careful about who we give our allegiance to. We may think that we have a spiritual curse when we are calling those curses upon ourselves. I tell you, the God that we are serving, even if your family, your parents, I don't know, maybe my parents were given that red cloth, I don't know. But all that I know is that, as far as I know, by the time my dad died, and the way that my mother is now, she is wholly committed to God. My father died in the Lord. Maybe it's possible that they were given that cloth, I don't know. But does it mean that I should have and inherit it as well? No. We are saved by grace through faith, and Christ died that we may be saved. Maybe if we believe in that, the next thing we'll go to another spiritual thing, and that spiritual thing will then say that, attack them. I'm sure, and I have no shadow of doubt, 100% sure, my life has been tried many times, but the Lord has protected me. One of the days when I was at work, I used to work with this other person, long story short, called her mother, whom the people that I used to work with knew that she was dangerous. And I used to lead that department. And she visited me in my office. And when we were there, I welcomed her as a mother. I so much respected and loved her. And then we sat there. I used to work as a radiographer then. And then patient came. I was called out to do, patient. We sat there and until there was no story to talk. And we ended up sitting and looking at each other. No story anymore to talk. Patient came. I was called to go and do the patient. I did the patient. After doing the patient, came back. And immediately when I came back, she said, okay, my child, I finished with you. I'm going now. And then she left. It didn't click in my mind. Later on, when I related the story at home, my mother said that, you should not have left her in your office. There's something that she did. But thank God, I don't know. I'm sure that she did something. But God has put. There are so many things that the devil would like to befall us. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 20. It is because of God's mercy that we are not consumed. His compassions fail not. They are new every morning. And great is your faithfulness. There are so many things that the devil would like us to be. And there are verses. I'm going to go to the last slide now and then we close. There are verses that, if you like, these verses, if you want to break the generational curses, if you can take a picture of them, or these are promises, the promises of God that he has given to us. That God is not a man that he should lie, or son of man that he should change his mind. He doesn't promise and then he withdraws. There are times when I promise my son or my daughter, and then next time they come and then I withdraw, I've changed. But God is not a man that he should do that. God promises and is true to his word. Whatever he does for us is for our best good. So let us not believe that the spiritual curses come. Someone will say that, what did God mean when he said that to the second and the third? And those were the punishments. And the punishment, usually, the way that we are in the families, children inherit. If we do morning and evening prayers, if we read and the like, the children will inherit that and they will practice as well. And so if the children inherit and they learn those things that are not good, you'll find that they will practice the same things, which is why God will punish them as well. The second, the third, and the fourth generation, God will punish. But he says that he has mercy and love for 1,000 generations. His love is more. So let us not cherish the idea that we have generational curses, spiritual curses. No. God loves us so much that he will not allow any. We are like the apple of his eye. The eye is one of the most sensitive things. He will not allow anything to befall us without him assessing it and saying that this is good for my child. May the good Lord bless the reading of his word.